Thank you for joining me for another episode of Awaken and Power TV. I'm your host, Ethan Fox. Today I have a very special episode that's a video clip from a 2-hour event that we did here in our local Flower of Life Center with Micheila Sheldan doing a 2-hour lecture and channeling where she took questions from our local audience. Some of the questions were, how do we open up to our intuitive gifts? How does channeling affect the physical body of the person doing the channeling? The effects of ayahuasca and whether ayahuasca is recommended as a means of raising consciousness. And why should we believe in the existence of reptilian beings and spirits and spirit guides? And is there any evidence to support that? So without any further delay, here is Micheila Sheldan.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today in the snow. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Micheila Sheldan. I'm an intuitive channel. I assume since you're all here, everybody knows what channeling is. If you don't, let me know. But we are an organization called Flower of Life. And if you've not heard of Flower of Life, what we do is we are a group of volunteers who come together with a mission. And that mission is to further human consciousness in all areas. And that manifests for us in a variety of different ways. We do local classes and events like the one you're at now. We also have an expo, if you're not familiar. It was just held downtown at the Weston Book Cadillac. What has it been, 3 weeks now? 2 weeks ago? About 2 weeks ago now, where we bring in speakers from all over the country. And we talk about a variety of different topics, from alternative health to channeling to energy, all kinds of things. It was really amazing. We're doing it again in November. So if you're interested, it'll be November 4th through the 6th, again, downtown. I think we still are confirming the venue. So definitely check that out. We also have a magazine. So we have a conscious magazine. We have a children's group, youth group for kids. So we connect kids from all over the country to talk about these types of topics, kids who are spiritually gifted. And I've been very privileged and honored to run that program along with Ethan and now another member of our team. So we're always looking for volunteers. We hope you'll join us. If you're interested, we have positions available for anybody and everybody who's interested in this type of a thing or has time that they want to give. As far as this event goes, we are going to pass a basket in a little bit because we offer all of our local classes free, donation basis, because we don't want to turn anyone away. But we do collect donations just to cover the fees for renting this facility, as well as anything else that we get goes into all of these programs. Our expo, our children's program, we have a conscious activism movement, and big plans. So if you're staying for Ethan's event afterwards, he'll probably fill you in a lot more of that. But you're here today for channeling. And so what we do in this class is I like to spend about 45 minutes to an hour talking about my journey to channeling and really making it interactive. So we can keep the discussion open. I can answer any questions you have about anything really, channeling, what's going on in the world, energies, because the guides that I work with and the information that I channel has a lot to do with our ascension and what's going on the planet. In addition to that, I've been getting a lot of information. I've been downloading a book that is in progress that I'm really excited about. So I love to share some information from the book, as well as where we are currently with planetary alignments and things that are happening. So after that, I am going to do a live channeling portion. So I'm going to be connecting to a collective consciousness, most likely, that is best suited for the group that has assembled here. And there's a general message that comes through me for everybody. It is filmed, as you've noticed, for YouTube, because all of my live lectures are posted on YouTube so that everyone all over the country can hear what the guides have to say. You will not be on the video, so you don't need to worry about that. But I do have paper and pens for questions, and Ethan helps me with that portion because I'm a trance channel. So when I'm connecting to these guides and collectives, my consciousness is pretty much over there, resting somewhere. And he helps me to ask the questions, and we try to make sure that they're universally phrased, meaning they're not really specific to you, but they're phrased in a way that anyone who's listening all over the world would be able to benefit. In other words, instead of saying, Aunt Lucy has cancer, how do we help her? If someone in the family has cancer, what can we do to help? That's the way we would rephrase that. So come on in. Hello. So that'll be the second half of the class. And any questions so far about any of that? Okay. Well, I know some of you in the room have sat through my story before, and if so, I apologize. But when there are new people in the group, I do like to share, because I do think it's important that everybody hear my journey, because I believe my journey is representative in some way of everyone else's in this room. I am a channel, and I believe that we are all channels for spirit guidance, that innately we all have the ability to connect with spiritual guidance and spiritual energies. You're not all meant to do it the way I do it. And as a matter of fact, I believe that everyone in this room has a very unique component of their energy body that assists them in this connection. And it's just finding that very unique part of you that becomes the catalyst for opening yourself to all of this really great information and support that we all have. So I'll start by saying that this was not what I intended to do with my life. I am your typical soccer mom, stay-at-home mom. I went to four-year college, got my bachelor's degree in marketing, business, public relations, and worked for a very long time, got married, had 2 kids, decided to stay home, and left the whole business world behind, and really loved it. I was the chronic volunteer. I ran the PTA. I ran the church social activity group. I ran the neighborhood activity group. I ran the Girl Scout troops. I ran the whole Girl Scout organization. You name it, I was in charge. And I actually loved that life. I delved in. I made gourmet dinners for my girls every night, packed them the perfect lunch. And around this time of my awakening, which was, I guess now, probably about 7-8 years ago, when things started to really roll for me, I started to experience a challenge with my health. And as you know, many of us will awaken to our spiritual gifts during a crisis in our lives. I was experiencing chronic pain. And it was shortly after the birth of my second daughter, I started to notice I had some pain in my low back and my hip and my leg. And I was on this Western medicine hamster wheel, right? Every year we get our insurance card, we go to the doctor with renewed hope that this is going to be the answer. And by February that year, it would be clear to me that this new doctor was not going to help me at all. As a matter of fact, I'd end up with prescriptions, and I was seeing PTs, and I was getting tests and all of these things, right? And I knew that around this time, things were not getting better for me. As a matter of fact, every year they were getting worse. So around this time, again, my family decided to make a move from one side of town to the other. And I lived in this really cushy neighborhood, which was really cool. Like, all the families were like me, young moms, young kids, everybody took care of everybody. And everyone knew of my condition. They knew that I had this pain and this numbness, and I had bad days. And they really reached out to me. It was beautiful. They would call me up and say, hey, let me get the kids off the bus for you today. Or, I'm going to the grocery store, what do you need? Send me your list. Text me your list. So I really didn't need to get better. But the universe knows exactly where to pick you up and drop you off in order to shake up your world. And I truly believe in divine guidance, and that's exactly what happened to me. So my family made a move from one side of town to the other. I was not in favor of this move at all. As a matter of fact, I dug my heels in. Come on in. There's chairs over on this side if you want to come in. And ended up in a neighborhood that was completely opposite of where I was. So I tried to make all these things work in this new neighborhood. I quickly delved into the PTA, and they absolutely hated me. I started a couple of Girl Scout troops, and they were a disaster. The kids didn't like me, the parents didn't like me, nothing worked out. And so I'm getting a little stressed, this is not where I'm meant to be, I'm usually the leader of the community. I run the PTA, this is what I do. Couldn't make a friend to save my life. And I had to take a hard look at myself in the mirror. I was 40 years old. And my pain had increased to the point where I was having my nerves ablated every 6 months. I was on pain medications, anti-inflammatories, and had even been prescribed antidepressants because I had a doctor who thought I was a little crazy. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. And I had numbness in my legs to the point where I stopped driving because I was too afraid to drive my own children. I was pulling off at the side of the road thinking I was going to get in a major accident. So right around this time again, find myself in this neighborhood completely different than where I'd ever been before. I became exposed to Eastern philosophy and had never considered that previously because I grew up in an Italian Catholic family, you know. I never experienced anything outside of my mainstream, you know, box of a world. Well, meditation was something that came into my awareness in this new neighborhood. And I decided to give it a try. I started to research more about meditation and the benefits of meditation. And what I found was that I could disconnect myself from my pain. And I thought that was worth a shot. So in this new neighborhood, you know, as stressed out as I was and alone and in pain, I started to meditate very regularly. And when I say regularly, religiously, I would meditate 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night, at least 15, 20 minutes. And I started to notice some really interesting things beginning to happen. It was definitely making a difference in my pain levels. I would notice when I would meditate, it would bring me to a place of calm where, you know, I was still struggling, but I wasn't in such a chronic state of pain that I couldn't get up and make dinner, right, for my kids. But in addition to that, I noticed I started to hear things during my meditations. And at first I thought, wow, my mind is really making this stuff up. My mind's pretty busy. This is not the way you're supposed to meditate. I'm doing this all wrong. But I started to notice outside of my meditations, as I was walking about my day, that I was hearing things in conversation with others that I didn't think they said out loud. So to give you an example, I would be in the grocery store. I'd run into a mom like me, you know, kids played soccer together. We'd be talking about the local soccer schedule. And in that conversation, I would hear something very personal about her. And I would get home and I would scratch my head and I would think, did she really say that to me out loud? And if she did, I didn't respond. And that's pretty rude. And why would she say something so personal to me? I don't even know her that well, you know? I really started to accuse myself of being a poor listener. But I came to find out that I'm actually a really excellent listener. And all of this culminated for me in one event, which was 2010, Christmas Day. And I love to tell this story because it was really the catalyst for me stepping onto this path and opening myself to channeling. So Christmas morning started out just like any other day, and I am the oldest of 3 kids, so I have everyone to my house for dinner. And I had this very special recipe that I used to make. It was a tenderloin, a beef tenderloin. Don't eat meat anymore, but I made it every year. You know, red wine, the whole marinade, everything you put together, you know, morning of, special recipe. Get up that morning and go to the pantry, excited to make Christmas dinner. And I opened up the pantry door and realized that I had forgotten to purchase 3 very key ingredients for this recipe. There was a red wine, a beef stock, and a spice that I needed. And so I started to push things aside thinking, okay, surely I can mock this thing up. There's got to be something similar that I can use. And got out a stool, pushing things aside, and came up with nothing. There was just nothing similar that I could use. So I started to get a little stressed thinking, Christmas Day, there's no grocery stores open. I remember calling the local Speedway gas station, like right here in Rochester, just to see like did they really have anything on the shelf that I could use, which the guy was like, you know, of course not. It was crazy. So as I'm feeling a little more stressed, I know this is my cue that I have to go to meditation, because to me at that time, stress equaled pain, and pain was not the direction that I wanted to go. So I told the kids, you know, Mom needs a few minutes, And I went in my bedroom and I shut the door. And I remember going into a very deep meditation that day. And I heard 3 words in a deep male voice that shook me out of the meditation. And those 3 words were, I am Jacob. And it was as if someone was in the room with me. And it shook me out of the meditation, and I looked around and I thought, I didn't feel scared at all, but I felt this very buzzy, blissful, peaceful feeling come over my body. And I tried to communicate back to find out who this Jacob was, but I didn't get any answers. But I didn't care. It was like, I don't know what I was so stressed about. It's Christmas morning. I can salt and pepper this thing. This was ridiculous. I walked out of the bedroom door and opened up the pantry. And there on the shelf, in a very neat row, right at eye level, were the 3 ingredients that I needed for the tenderloin, the red wine, the beef stock, and the spice. And I was overjoyed. I thought, wow, I manifested something into my physical reality. And I didn't tell a soul. I just made the recipe, went about my day. And I just remember it being a very beautiful Christmas day with my family. But after that, I kind of tucked that away, pretended it didn't happen, negated the miracle that it was, because I really wasn't ready to deal with what happened there. But what did happen was it piqued my curiosity. And I wanted to know who this Jacob was and what was happening to me and what I was hearing. And so from that point on, I just went on a quest. Everything I could get my hands on. I started researching clairaudience, which I think is really funny today, because I wasn't ready to talk about channeling at all. That whole word to me was like, yeah, I don't do that. The clairaudience was comfortable. So I started to delve into clairaudience, which led to one thing, which led to another thing. And all of a sudden, my meditations are expanding. And I'm meditating deeper. And those 3 words that I got from Jacob that one day are now 6. And now they're a full sentence. And now they're 2. And now they're 4. And now I'm getting so much information that I can't even remember. And at that time, I was keeping a journal. I was writing it all down. And I got to the point where I used to keep this journal right by my side. So when I came through from my meditation, I would write down everything that I heard. I couldn't do it because there was so much that I started to voice record myself on my iPhone, thinking, well, I'll just talk about what I'm hearing. Well, when I listened back to those recordings, my mind was completely blown because I heard my voice change. If there was a female guide that was present I was speaking to, my voice would get very high. If there was a male guide, my voice would get very low. I would use words, phrases, talk about things that I don't think I really knew much about. As a matter of fact, I would talk about things I didn't really think I believed in. I did not believe in extraterrestrials until I started to channel them. And that was not something I was ready to talk about at the PTA meeting, let me tell you. So I'm doing all of this stuff kind of in my closet. And when I say in my closet, I mean literally in my closet, bringing through these recordings. And it took me a really long time, and I did end up healing myself. So just to go back to the story, I discovered that I had this really beautiful connection, and I just became so aligned that things started to show up in my physical world. And the most beautiful thing that I saw was the signs and the synchronicities. And this is the way our guides speak to us every single day. And if you can pick up on that, you just will see the beauty of the support that you have around you from so many guides. I mean, we have between 60 and 90 spirit guides, teachers, masters, variety of beings around us at any time. And some of them are here from birth. Some of them come in for transitions that we're making, but they're always showing us the way. And, ask. And then when you get the answer, don't question it. Don't question it. I've seen answers come across the bottom of the TV screen when I've asked a question. I've been led to things. I have so many beautiful stories that I love to share, but what happened to me was, it wasn't that my guides told me, this is what you need to do to heal. It wasn't that I channeled the information. At that time, I didn't know that I could do that. I can do that now. But I just credit that connection that I had and being so aligned with my soul and my guides that the things that I needed to heal showed up for me in this beautiful path that there is no way in hell I could represent that any differently, because it couldn't have happened any differently. It was too perfect. I was led to a trainer who had this very specific experience, who led me to a book, who led me to a chiropractor, who led me to a nutritionist who just happened to be taking the last person for free when I didn't have the money to pay for it. And then I turned around and all of a sudden, I'm 100% pain-free. I mean, it took me probably a year and a half, 2 years, and all of the tools and the support that I manifested around me was just incredible. I'm 100% pain-free today, got off all of my medications. I mean, there's just really no looking back for me. I'm in better shape today than I was when I was that 40-year-old who moved into that neighborhood, who was feeling so secluded and trying to make it all work, you know? This is what this type of connection can do for you. And it doesn't have to be channeling the way that I channel. It's just bringing that information through. It's all around us. So Jacob, who is Jacob? Jacob was a very special spirit guide for me, and I believe we all have them. Some people call them gatekeepers. They're here to help us awaken. And that's what he was, and I did channel him for a very long period of time. I was told that he and I had a past life connection, and in that past life he was a young boy, and he was lost. And I took him in, I fed him, I clothed him, and I cared for him. So in this life, he comes back indebted to me in this way to help me find my gifts and remember who I was in this life. And I thought he would always be around, you know? And one day, very surprisingly, he popped in on me and said that his work with me was done. And about that time, I had already started connecting to a variety of other beings, collectives, that kind of took his place. And now, no one could take Jacob's place in my heart, but I've expanded that connection beyond him. And I'm, you know, forever grateful and indebted to him for finding me in that way and helping me to awaken to all of this. I channel a variety of beings, guides, and collectives today. When I first started channeling, I was channeling a lot of archangels, and I've had a lot of different experiences with souls who have transitioned as a medium. Everyone know the difference between a medium and a channel? Or anyone not know what a channel is? Okay. Anyone not know the difference between a medium and a channel?
What is the difference?
Yeah, so mediums are holding a two-way conversation. So with a soul that's passed, let's say grandma is passed, and you're able to communicate with her in a two-way conversation, meaning you can ask questions, grandma can answer the questions, right? And that's what mediums do. And mediums are usually accessing that astral plane where there's a lot of souls that have been incarnate here on the earth that are passing. When you're channeling, the difference is the guides and beings and collectives are actually using you as the vessel. So the guides that I channel are using my body, my consciousness to bring messages through, my hands, my eyes at times. And it's different because I'm not having that two-way conversation. That information is flowing through me in a one-way type of a communication. Now, I can be a trance channel and a conscious channel. So the example I gave earlier about I would hear things from others, right? When I didn't think they were saying, that's conscious channeling. So I can ask a question consciously and I can receive an answer. And I can ask another question and get more clarification. When I'm channeling up here, when I do what I'm going to do in a little bit, that's complete trance channeling, meaning my consciousness is, although the beings are using my consciousness to present ideas, I'm really outside of myself. And I have an interesting kind of a process that goes on. I'm almost like an observer. I have conversations with myself, like, I wonder if they're getting all this, or that's not what I thought was going to happen, or, I wonder if this is making sense, or I wonder what time it is. That kind of goes on out there when this stuff's coming through me. And I don't remember much of what's said at all. So oftentimes I'll watch these videos back, or I'll listen to my recordings, and I'm pretty shocked at what was said or the information that came through. Because I couldn't possibly remember it all. Yeah. So, anyone have any questions? So, what's the key to all of this? How do you tap into this information? I always get asked this question. And a lot of people want me to teach a channeling class. And I don't believe that I'm here to do that. I do believe I have a very specific mission and purpose in this life, which I was told very early on, which I didn't want to accept until the guides had to knock me over the head a bunch of times to get out and do it. I believe that we were given our extrasensory as a very unique tool in order for us to connect to spiritual energies. And I think it's difficult to teach a channeling class because everyone in this room has a very unique part of who they are that helps them to tap into these energies and use them in a way that they're meant to do. I believe that we all have a collective assignment in this life, and that collective assignment shouldn't be taken so seriously, like, oh shoot, I have this assignment. I mean, it's just really an expression of your energy and what you came to do in this life, and how you connect to spiritual energies is a big part of that. So to give you an example, if someone asks me, how do I do this? I always say, pay really close attention to your senses and where you're very sensitive. So if you were going to learn something new, if you were challenged with learning something new, how would you want to learn it? For me, hearing is my very first primary. I am very sensitive to hearing. I would prefer to listen to something than to watch it. I don't watch any TV, but I listen to music all day long. I listen to podcasts, I listen to interviews. I don't like to watch. If my girls were trying to sneak out of the house in the middle of the night, there's no way they could do it because I hear a pin drop. I'm a very light sleeper, and I would hear anything that happens in the house. So when I'm consciously channeling, like what we were talking about, what I begin to notice is I feel the way I hear. So once the hearing went on automatic pilot, I started to realize I could feel those guides. And I equate it to a megaphone, like if you were to place a megaphone in my left ear, and you were to place that megaphone so it was reaching up to the sky, and it was lined with metal. And I asked a question, and I received an answer. If it came from me, I wouldn't feel it. If my mind made it up, I wouldn't feel it. But if it came from the guides up there, or wherever I say up, they're all over, it would be this distinct ring. It'd be like somebody telling me through that megaphone and it bouncing off the metal and it ringing in my inner ear. It's a very slight feeling, but I've picked up on it now where I know I can tune into that, and I know that answer didn't come from me. A lot of people are clairvoyant, right? They see spirit, they see energy. You can either see in the mind's eye or you can see energy fields outside of the body. These people love, right? They want to see that demonstration. They love art, they love color, That's how you begin to tune in. Recognize that about yourself and begin to use that tool as a connection. The feeling, like right now, my whole left side is buzzing. That's how I know there's guides in the room. And they're already here. I felt them before I even got here because I know that they're ready to communicate through me to you. And my whole left leg is just completely buzzing, lit up. That's the way I felt when Jacob came in. It was this beautiful buzzing of energy around my body. When you tune into that, it is so valuable. I can't tell you how many times I've been doing some mundane task like wiping the kitchen counters and having a really crummy day, and I got that buzz up my leg and went, all right, stop for a minute. And I listened and heard something really beautiful. I have 2 grandparents that are very special guides for me. They'll come in and just give me that little finger in the face, like, knock it off. You know this isn't right. And if I missed out on that, oh man, that's the stuff that you really want to tune into. We all have that claircognizance, that knowing, right? That's an important one. And I connect with so many clients who the guides will tell them something about themselves. They'll say, "Oh, I don't really channel." And the guides, and before they even get on the call, the guides told me they channeled, and they'll be like, "Well, I kind of did know that." I'm like, yeah, it's confirmation, right? When you're connecting to these higher vibrational guides, you're really getting confirmation of what you already know. It's just you haven't accepted it in yourself yet. I have this really great story I love to tell about knowing, and I know all of you have had this in some way or another. At the beginning of my awakening, I was really angry, about the chemtrail and the GMO food and, fluoride in the water and all this stuff. I was posting on Facebook about it every day. And so there was a march for Monsanto downtown Detroit. And I woke up on a Sunday morning and I saw that this march was going on. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to be there, And so I didn't have time to shower. I literally threw a comb through my hair, put my jeans on, and got in my car. And so I'm driving downtown, and my mind says, you're going to be interviewed on camera about GMO foods. And I went, oh my God, who would care what I have to say? There's going to be millions of people down there. People running the event. What? No. And nope, you're going to be interviewed on camera. You better practice what you're going to say. This is ridiculous. What an ego I have. Like, why would anyone care what I have to say? And so I get down there, and the march was a little angry for me. I didn't like the vibe. So I let it go down the street, and I found this little cafe table that I sat at just to check my phone. Here comes the guy with the camera on his back. And says, I'm making a documentary film about GMO foods. Can I interview you for a little bit? He interviewed me for 45 minutes about GMO foods. And I did pretty good. But, if I would have listened to that, I would have probably prepared. I might have combed my hair a little better, to be on camera. But we all have that, even if it's just at the stoplight. How many times have you been in traffic and somebody said, inside, oh, you better turn left. And you thought, well, why would I do that? It'd take me out of my way. And then you hit the accident or whatever it might be. I mean, we all have that inner knowing. It's a tool that you come with, it's a part of your structure. So when you believe in that, it just expands. I'm a huge believer in being intentional. And I think intention is such a powerful thing. The more you become intentional, meaning you ask for guidance and then you acknowledge when you receive it, the more it comes and the more you get it in a way that you're able to believe in it, right? Because now it's coming so subtle for a lot of people. But those subtleties, when you pick up on those little subtleties, those subtleties become concrete. And that's what brought me to where I am today. Any questions about connecting, channeling? Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about some of the collectives and the guides that I work with, and then I want to talk about some of the things that are going on the planet. And feel free. I mean, this is an open forum. Anything you want to talk about is on the table. So once Jacob stepped aside, I had already started connecting with a collective consciousness. They call themselves Jeremiah. I should say there's a variety of different beings that step forward from this collective consciousness. One is Jeremiah. They're a ninth dimensional collective. And Jeremiah is indeed the prophet Jeremiah. And I had to ask him about that. I wasn't sure. And I asked, why would the prophet Jeremiah, present information through me? And I was told that his life is very representative of light workers in this time. And if you don't know what a light worker is, you don't have to, because if you're here, you're one. Meaning that you're here on the planet to help awaken others and help expand the collective consciousness. And I didn't know much about his story, so I looked him up because I thought, even though I've had this Catholic upbringing, I didn't remember any of that stuff. So I did look it up, and he did receive a very important message from God as a very young boy. And he was meant to go out into the world and share this message. And it was about the destruction of Jerusalem. And it was a scary message. It was difficult for him. Nobody believed him. And he had a really hard time, a really tough journey. But indeed, the message that he was given was truthful, and it did happen. And so he's one of the guides that steps forward from that collective. Also, St. Thomas of Aquinas, who very similarly to Jacob, stepped in one day and told me that his messages through me were done. Although I personally do hear from him time to time. He's another that steps forward. I connect with the Palladian consciousness, ninth dimensional collective of Palladians. I also connect with a Lemurian ninth dimensional collective that has come in through me and channeled some courses, some 10-week classes that I offer. They're just an amazing group of beings. They are all about peace, love, and freedom, and helping us to realize where we've accepted programming in the third dimension that keeps us held back from where we want to be. I channel a Council of Light. They are a council of a variety of different races of beings that have ascended through a 12th dimensional energy. And they were formed during a very cataclysmic event on the planet in which there were some timelines that were skewed. And they are here to kind of oversee. I don't want to make it sound as if they get involved, because although they have the ability to, in a moment's notice, heal this earth, they cannot do it. They can do it. They won't do it because we are individual souls as well as a collective one. And they honor our individuality enough to let us work through these issues on our own. But they're here in support. They watch to see where timelines might be skewed, and they assist. And they've come in a lot for the book that I'm working on. I work with a collective called the Ancients. They're an ancient group of Mayans, and I had the distinct pleasure of visiting some of their ruins in Tulum this past week, which was a really cool experience for me. They're all about the earth energies and bringing in ancient information and wisdom and guidance for us. Really, I'm a very wide open channel. I know there are a lot of channels out there that just work with one or two different beings or collectives. I feel I'm very open enough to connect with a variety. I do private sessions, and in my private sessions, there's really no limit. I've brought in the Orion Council for people who are connected to the Orion Council in some way. I've brought in the Blue Avians. Some of you may have heard of the Blue Avians, for specific people who are, connecting with the Blue Avians in this time. Lemurians often come in. There are a lot of light workers on the planet who are working with Lemurians right now because we are transitioning to self-healers. So I bring in a lot of different beings and collectives, and we'll see probably several of them come in today. So what's the big deal? Why are we here, and what's going on? We've been going through, obviously, many of you know, a very big transition here. The guides and collectives that I work with have been very focused on the planetary energies and alignments in regards to our transition. So the most recent one, well, I'll say the most recent two, we had a couple of very significant solar eclipses that were a big part of our transition here. But most importantly, the one that we just encountered in March was a very significant solar transition for us, because we triggered an ascension code within our structure. And I know these all sound like difficult words. If anyone has any questions, feel free. But we have within our structure ascension codes. Basically, these are energy codes that are both unique and collective. And we triggered one that was a collective code. And what it did was it helped us to reconnect to Mother Earth, which is a living, breathing being. So what does all that mean? It just means we now have access to more information. That through Mother Gaia as a portal, we're bringing in more universal information into our structure. This is for all of you that are here, but also everyone else out there. And we know we're all at varying speeds of consciousness, right? Some of us are very awake and aware. Others, in our family, we have family members, friends, people around us who aren't quite as awake and aware, but they received the same upgrade and the same plug-in that we did several weeks ago. So what does that mean? It means they now have an opportunity. They now have an opportunity to also expand their consciousness and begin to awaken, and also tap into new and more expanded amounts of information. So the guides that I work with are talking a lot about something called the splitting of the timelines. And I don't know if any of you have heard this. A lot of other channels talk about it as well. I didn't realize until recently, but they all talk about it a little bit differently. Some people talk about the two trains leaving the station, or the two earths. The guides that I work with call it the splitting of the timelines. And what this means is we're right now in a transition where we're going to be splitting from a one collective human race into two. And each group is going to be focused in a different dimensional reality. Some of us, probably all of us who are here, are going to be tuning into a fifth dimensional reality, which is higher vibrational information. And the rest of those that aren't taking that opportunity and expanding their consciousness will be tuning into a third dimensional reality. Does that mean that we're not going to see those people or experience those people, or they're going to fall off the earth? No. They're still going to be a part of our reality. We're still going to know who they are. We're still going to interact with them. But they're going to be living in a quite different reality than what we are. Our manifestation here on the planet is beginning to change. We've been manifesting very, very singularly, and it's not been working very well, right? I mean, we can see at times in our lives we've manifested things that have been great, but there have been times that we haven't. And I've learned a lot about this, especially over the last week. I've been editing this book that I've been channeling, and I channel it in trance, so when I read it back, it's all new to me. But we have an operating system, and our operating system is what we're upgrading. And operating system is just a really fancy word for meaning we are all one. And our operating system connects as a one. But the guides talk about the fact that we've been taken offline, and we've been operating singularly with this very singular focus. And that's changed our genetics here. There's a lot of reasons for that I can go into. My book focuses on the reptilian race in particular as being a very big focus of why this has happened on our planet. I referred to a cataclysmic event earlier. That cataclysmic event was the beginning of this reptilian race taking up home in our Earth and creating through us. We've become disassembled. You know, we have a mind, body, spirit, and that mind, body, spirit is meant to work cohesively as one. But our mind has been taking the lead. And our mind has been the impetus for our operating systems coming offline. And so when the guides talk about the operating system, they go into everything. You know, at the cellular level, our cells are equal to the water in our oceans. You know, we're one with that. That is our operating system. You know, our oceans are a part of our operating system. But when our oceans become contaminated, it affects our operating system. We think, oh, that ocean over there is contaminated and it's not, you know, affecting me because I'm not eating the fish in that ocean, or I'm not, you know, wading in that ocean. But energetically, our operating system is a part of that ocean. And so when we think about that and all of the physical means that are being used on our planet to take us offline, we can begin to see how we need to overcome this energetically. Because cleaning up that ocean is a pretty big task, right? But when we focus inside and we work on ourselves, we begin to own our operating system. And when we begin to own our operating system, we allow that in another. And that's how the ocean gets cleaned, right? We're looking at it completely differently. And this is where we're at right now. We're all about the internal focus. So this solar eclipse that we had gave us more information. The sun stores energy for us. It stores expansion. It stores light codes. It gave all of that to us as an opportunity for us to now go inward and allow ourselves to connect again in a new way to our operating system. So a lot of people ask, how are we going to clean this up? How are we going to reverse this? The guides will say, you just need to look at yourself. And that sounds really selfish. Everyone in this room who's a light worker, they know they're here to be of service. And the intention is so good. We want to focus on others, focus on others, focus on others. Well, it's a part of it. But first we got to make sure that we've done the work internally ourselves, and we're taking care of ourselves. We're working through our stuff, because that's how we begin to bridge this reality from the third into the fifth dimension. And that's where we're at right now. We're in that transient space where we're bridging that reality. It's an exciting time. I don't want to make it sound scary, because look at how far we've come. If you look around you, not at the news, not at what CNN is reporting, not at the political campaign, but if you really look beneath the surface at what's happening, the awakening of consciousness is all around you. And that's the transition that we're in right now. Sometimes I'm told, sometimes I go through a process. It's interesting. Recently I did a channel for someone who was very highly connected, very high consciousness. And I channeled the Phoenicians for them. And I've never channeled the Phoenicians before. But what happened was I knew there was something I had to break through. There was this barrier. And I kept ascending. And all of a sudden I just kind of got through it. And they presented themselves to me.
So once that happens, can they continue then once you reach that breaking the ceiling?
I believe that there are specific collectives that I'm meant to work with, and others I just bring in for my connection to other people. And like I mentioned, I do a lot of private sessions. So during those private sessions, I connect to a variety of different beings, collectives. Sometimes it's archangels, sometimes it's your guides, sometimes it's collectives, because there are things that you need to know. It's all coming through you. So when I connect to, let's say, if the Phoenicians for you, it's because you have that DNA genetic link, and I'm connecting to your energy. So I believe that makes it possible for me to bring that collective in. There are a variety of collectives that I'm meant personally to connect with, to bring information through me for others. So it's across the board. It's constantly evolving and changing, and that's why I tell people, once you get that one door in, don't make that so concrete that that's the only way you're going to ever connect, because you have to keep your mind open. It's completely changed. The way I channeled 7 years ago is not the way I channel today. And sometimes I'll have these planetary alignments come, like the solar eclipse we just had. And my physical body will take a little toll. I'll have to catch up. I'm kind of going through that right now. Some of you know me, probably I'm a little off my game today. Yeah. I just did receive a big download last week, and I was told I'd have a week-long integration before my book was going to start coming again. And my physical body is just taking a toll. But I'll notice during that rest time that I'll start connecting. My light body travels. I just feel different things going on in my energy body. And then all of a sudden I have a new collective that comes in. So take your rest time really seriously, because especially when we have these solar eclipses, because those solar energies are very powerful. They're the catalyst for our ascension. And we download so much information from the sun. And that can be the impetus for you connecting to a new guide, a new collective, doing things differently. Yeah, I just channel completely differently than what I did before. But it's always different. It's just always different. And it's just unique. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Have you ever communicated with your future self?
My future self, I've communicated with my higher self and the higher self of others. I've seen future lives. Yeah. The higher self, I encourage everyone to try to connect with their higher self, because I truly believe that everyone can do this. Really, you just have to be intentional in it, in meditation, and come up with your own process. But you can connect with your higher self and bring your higher self in. Usually your higher self will look a very specific way. When my higher self comes in, my higher self always looks the same. She doesn't really look a lot like me right now, but she looks the same. And I've connected in channels for clients with their higher self, and we've brought information in from their higher self. I can channel the higher self of others. I do believe there's a responsibility when you do that to ask permission, right, to make sure that that other person is in agreement, with that. But yeah, I see past lives. I can see past, present, future lives. I've done that in session. I do it for myself all the time. Where it's interesting the way I get it, and this is where the clairvoyance comes in, because I never thought I'd be clairvoyant. I thought, I hear, that's all I do. And then I feel. But all of a sudden, I started to see. I see a little bit now outside, and I see inside. But my guides will give me a set of pictures. And those pictures will turn into almost like a movie where they'll give me channeled guidance to tie the pictures together. So all of a sudden we know we're seeing a past, present, or future life, that you've had. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one thing I want to mention, I know the guides are reminding me of this because of your question, we talked about the splitting of the timelines. What would be the difference there with those people? When you're tuning into that dimensional reality, that third dimensional reality, I've been told that there's going to be a different form of transition that will take place with those souls. They'll have to come back as third dimensional physical beings and transcend that reality in order to move on to a new assignment. So transition as we know it on the planet is actually transitioning in addition to manifestation. And the reason I brought up the operating system is because we started to talk about manifestation. I got a little off track there. We've been manifesting very singularly with the mind. And we can see where that's gotten us into trouble, right? Where we're headed, we're going to manifest as a one, cohesively as a collective. And people think, well, gosh, that sounds like it wouldn't be fair for me. What about my stuff? What about the stuff I want? Well, it's all there because you're just manifesting in line with the highest good for everybody. And there's no lack there. There's no lack in that space. It's all there for everybody. And everybody wants the best for everybody, right? When we're manifesting that way. So that's what we're birthing right now, is this new form of manifestation on the planet. My guides refer to it as the 3 points of manifestation. They give me this triangle, like a pyramid. And the 3 points are our soul, the earth, and the universe. And in that middle space is that 0 point, and that's where that collective manifestation lies. And so we've been really just focused in that one singular form of manifestation just for the good of ourselves. And we've been using the mind outside of the confines of our entire operating system. And it was never supposed to work that way. The mind, I'll just go into a little bit and then we'll channel, is a big focus of my book. Many of you know the reptilian brain, the reptilian mind, and we think about that as being something really negative. The reptilian brain is actually not a negative thing. It was given to us because it's a very beautiful organism. And we were made with the best of these higher vibrational beings. And when I talk about the Council of Light, there's reptilian beings that are on the Council. They are 12th dimensional beings. It's just like the splitting of the timelines here. The reptilians went through a splitting of their own timeline, where there were higher vibrational beings that went one way and lower vibrational beings that went another way. But that reptilian brain, it was meant to allow us to create really beautifully as it functioned together with all of the parts of our operating system. But what happened was it was very easily taken offline. And we began to manifest with that organism separate. And that's what's caused a lot of the problems that we experience today on our planet. And so that's what we're here to do, is not get rid of the reptilian brain and not stop using the mind. The mind is how we take energy and we manifest it into something beautiful and concrete. It's just that we were meant to use it cohesively, with all of the parts of our operating system. And so that's the transition we're walking, is bringing that all back together. For those of you who weren't here, what we're going to do is we're going to channel in a guide or collective that's best suited for this group and beyond, because we film today, and all of my channels go up on YouTube, and so people all over the country can experience them. And so Ethan's going to pass out. I have paper and pens. We like to write the questions down, and so Ethan reads them, and it helps us to get them on the camera, and so people can hear what the question was. And he'll rephrase them just to make sure that everybody benefits. And he'll also pass around a basket. If you weren't here, we do take donations through Flower of Life that help us to pay for this facility rental today, as well as our other programs that we offer. I do shake a little bit. I twitch a little bit when I channel. Just energy is different here than what they are with the beings and collectives that I work with. Know that when you are hearing channeled information, you have a part in it. You have to raise your frequency in order to match it. So you're actually receiving a healing today by raising your frequency to hear this channeled information.
Who are we speaking with?
Jeremiah is pleased to begin on behalf of the council. The council is also present, as well as the Ninth Dimensional Pleiadian Collective. We are creating a one space in which there are many that are connecting their energy bodies in this time, and this collective space is one in which we will raise the frequency. We are very pleased to accept the intention of all of you, all of your energy bodies, to join us in this telepathic exchange. As we begin, we wish to focus on several intentions today as we bring information about your planet and your transition as a one consciousness. We first want to speak about your planetary being and the ascension of your planetary being, as there's been a recent shift of energies in regards to the poles and the magnetized energies of her collective core. We also wish to discuss your energy body and the genetic codes that you hold within your energy body. And the council is pleased to come in and discuss the genetic codes and how you are to understand those codes from a very simplistic standpoint of your singular energy body, as well as a one collective. We wish to begin, and we will start with your Mother Gaia being. As many of you know, there has been a recent planetary energy that has catapulted you forward as a human consciousness. We've been very pleased to experience this energy and be witness to how it is affecting your energy body as well, because there are many that come in support of this transition you are making to a one consciousness. We first want to clarify that as we speak of a transition to a one consciousness, you may be defining that as something that has been lost. And we wish to help you remember that the one consciousness that you were created in a likeness of has never been lost. It has always been present. It is just that you have stepped outside of the realms of understanding how to operate as a part of this one consciousness. This one consciousness includes Mother Gaia, and Mother Gaia is a living, breathing being. Her core holds within it the information that you also have within the core of your being. In other words, you are equal to her as she is equal to you. There are parts of her being that hold within it the very strands of DNA that you hold within your structure. There is a 12-strand DNA that you were created within the likeness of, and that 12-strand DNA goes beyond your Mother Earth planet to other portals of energy beyond her being. These strands of DNA we want to speak about for a moment, because we know that the human consciousness becomes very interested in how the physical structure is operating in alignment with the DNA. Many of you hold a definition that the DNA you own has a connection to your family, meaning your soul partners, the ones that have agreed to, through soul contract, to be a mother, a father, a parent, a grandparent, and that these codes or strands of DNA have within them the parts of you that are your makeup. What we wish to explain is that the DNA that you hold is connective most to Mother Earth than it is to other human beings. And you may question, well, why is it that I am created in a likeness of my mother or father, meaning that I have the same hair, the same eyes, the same skin as these parents that I have chosen in this life? We would say that this has more to do with you accepting their energy as a part of your own than it does the actual DNA strand. The DNA strands that you have identified through your history and through many of your medical facilities are physical in nature. And there is a physicality to you as human beings. You have chosen that physical nature, of course. But the physical aspect of your DNA is not the most prevalent area of choice when we are speaking of ascension. In other words, the energetic aspect of your DNA is connective to the earth in that it holds specific codes. And the earth codes are now beginning to change, and this is where we wish to begin this message. Many of you are aware that there was a recent solar magnitude that was experienced by your planet, and you often call this a solar eclipse. And we know that in the eclipse, there is an expansion of information that is given to you. In that expansion of information, you hold a record, meaning that in your record, you knew that on a very specific day, this information would come. And you would use this information in order to create, through your energy body, in alignment with what you have agreed to do. There is an agreement that you make as a soul before you come, and that agreement is multidimensional. It is not just related to the earth energies, it is related to energies off planet. Your DNA genetics hold within them the basis for your physical reality, and that basis for your physical reality is held in multiple dimensions. We realize that as a human consciousness, you have accepted a third dimensionally based energy, and that third dimensionally based energy is beginning to shift and change. Your DNA is the impetus for the dimension by which you hold information and the dimension through which you choose to operate. So in knowing that you have a 12-strand DNA, you must know that you have the ability in any moment to transcend a 12th dimensional reality or access a 12th dimensional reality. Many of you have in fact done this in your ascension program. You have connected outside of the physical body. You've connected telepathically and energetically to other beings and collective groups of consciousness, knowing that you have accessed another dimensional reality. The reason for this is that in that moment, there was a DNA strand that was activated and that you choose to use as your catalyst for that telepathic exchange. Your DNA has been blocked from you somewhat because you have chosen to operate as a singular being. When we say that it is blocked, we don't want you to assume that you cannot access all of your strands of DNA, because you can. Your awareness outside of the self is what keeps you blocked from the DNA as a genetic tool to transcend your physical reality. Let us give you some examples. If you are placing your awareness into your physical environment, meaning there is an energy that has taken place, perhaps there is the catalyst for a physical interaction with another. And in that physical interaction with another, there is an argument, and that argument takes your attention. In that interaction with energy, your frequency becomes a part of that energy. Your attention draws you into the energy, and your frequency becomes a part. So if there is an argument, and your attention is drawn into that argument, what will become of your frequency? If you are to become a part of the argument, your frequency becomes lowered in consciousness in that moment. Because anything that is causing you to function outside of a love frequency is a lower vibration. So now let us say, as a part of that argument, you've lowered your frequency, you've lowered your vibration. In that moment, because you hold a lower frequency or a lower vibration, you do not have access to the strands of DNA that hold a higher vibrational energy because you are not matching it. In the same way that you match the energy of the parent, because within you, you held an intention to love that parent and to connect with that parent, you began to mimic or mirror the image or the likeness of that parent or that collective family. This is an activity that can also happen energetically within your DNA. So let us say that argument now takes your attention, but midway into the argument, you realize that your frequency or your consciousness would be affected by your activity, meaning you must disengage from the argument. In that moment, you've chosen to use your attention differently, and your attention has now become the catalyst for your frequency to raise. As you've raised your frequency, you have more access to genetic codes and to DNA. And that becomes the catalyst for you connecting outside of the self to higher dimensional states of reality. How does this translate to your current transition? As we know, many of you are transitioning from a third or a fourth to a fifth dimensional space. It becomes quite simple. If you are always aware of where you are placing your attention, you become the enabler of the healing of your own DNA. You become the catalyst for connecting outside of the self to a new dimensional reality. And the entire operating system that you own goes with you. Now, we want to shift our focus, and the council comes in to assist, to genetic codes. Many of you are familiar with this term, genetic code, but are not understanding exactly what a genetic code is. Genetic codes are essentially the keys to unlocking your strands of DNA. Think of it as a door, and the door has a lock, and the lock has a key. The genetic code is the key that goes in the lock, which opens your DNA strand and allows you to access information dimensionally above and beyond where you are currently operating. These genetic codes are not unique to you. These genetic codes are a part of the entire collective. And the genetic codes are changing based on how the collective is responding to frequency and reconnecting as a one. So in other words, as the human consciousness is awakening, genetic codes are becoming easier to utilize through your structure to open the doors to new strands of DNA. What is the genetic code without light-coded frequency and information? You see, within you, you hold light codes, and those light codes hold information. So when we speak of a genetic code, it is just an assembly of information or light frequencies that are similar. And the reason that they are similar is they are similar to a very specific dimensional reality. So, if you are wishing to hold a fifth dimensional reality, what you are actually wishing for is to own the information or match the information or the frequency of that dimensional reality. In the third dimension, you do not have the access outside of that available set of light codes and frequencies and information. In other words, the attention that you utilize becomes the catalyst to what you see. There is a unique aspect and a collective aspect to healing DNA. Within you, you have ascension codes, and we've often spoken of ascension codes. These ascension codes are embedded within you, and they become triggered when they are aligned planetarily. So when you have an incarnation date, that incarnation date is a record, and that record revolves around all of the planets as stationary objects within your reality. We call them stationary, although you know they are within a movement of frequency, but they are stationary within your structure, meaning There are planets that are held within your structure in alignment with your incarnation date. And when these planets are triggered, an ascension code is triggered as well. And oftentimes this becomes the impetus for a karmic experience. We call it karma not because it is meant to hold you in suffering. We call it karma because it is meant to ascend you into a higher dimensional state. But oftentimes what happens when these karmic experiences take place is that your attention defines them as your reality. We know that, yes, you do have a physical reality and that these karmic experiences are a part, but in essence, they are energy. It's an energetic opportunity that has been given to you to transcend the physical and to heal your DNA. But when you place your attention within an experience similar to the argument, and you make it your own, and you allow it to affect your frequency, you are not benefiting the DNA healing, because these ascension codes, once they align with yourself and with the planets and they trigger an experience, lead you to the genetic code, which is the lock and the key that takes you through the door to a new dimensional reality. Each of you have a very specific set of ascension codes that you came with when you incarnated here. These are a set of karmic experiences that you knew you would have that would assist you to transcend in this time. The collective also has ascension codes. And back to the earth structure we began with, Mother Earth is a living, breathing being that also holds ascension codes. And within this timeline, you are accessing the one in which you are transitioning. Mother Earth is also navigating through her own genetic codes, through her own ascension codes. The one collective here, the human consciousness, as it has been reconnected to her, becomes the basis for these genetic codes transcending Mother Earth into a higher dimensional reality. You see, you are one with her. So when you transcend, the entire planet must transcend as well. The intergalactic codes that we call the ascension codes are the ones that are the multidimensional pathways to higher light. And those multidimensional pathways are taking you into unknown territory. We want to talk about that for a moment because we know that many of you are facing the unknown within your physical realities. This is because many of these ascension codes have been transitioned in a very expedited fashion, most recently, with all of you. This has left you in a state where what you have known before no longer exists, or no longer makes sense, or can no longer be held. But the new has not manifested yet. The concrete avenues, that door that opens to take you to the new dimensional reality. Although you've received the keys, they have not yet gone into the lock. We're here to help you understand how to place those keys within the locks and help you to hold the new dimensional reality that you wish to hold. And it is a very simple and easy request. It is to monitor your attention very carefully. Because as Mother Gaia is transcending and also purging density and karma, there will be many events on your planet that will be designed to draw your attention to them and to bring your energy within them. It is not as if you must ignore these events. We know that they are a part of you in many respects. They're part of history. History is being healed through your connection to Earth. When you begin to see these events, and many of them have already taken place within the collective consciousness, and we're speaking of events that are not to your liking, collective events that are causing difficulty or harm. Be careful, my friends, where you place your energetic attention or your energetic currency. Because the more you keep these events alive, the more that you announce them to others, the more that you contemplate them, the more that you become one with them, the farther you become from that key in the door. The farther you are from healing the planet as a one and holding that fifth dimensional consciousness that you wish to experience. It is already here in many respects, and many of you know that you've accessed that reality, and many of you are living in it in a time frame outside of the physical. But you yearn for others to experience it right along with you. And this is where we say the DNA healing between Mother Earth and you is the mirror, the similar mirror to the one that you held with your parents, your family members. Honor her and understand that through her, you receive a new DNA genetic code. The same way that you were birthed here as a baby with black hair and blue eyes. It was very physical, but we're speaking of an energetic transition here. The two of you are walking together, hand in hand, and mirroring the ascension of the planet as a one. And your attention becomes the key to how you hold frequency during this integrative space. If you are always in check with your attention, where you are placing weight and importance on the planet, you will always be placing your frequency in alignment with Source. And this becomes the impetus for all of the doors, the 12 strands of DNA, the genetic codes, which are the keys to unlock the blocked aspects of your structure, not only for you, but for Mother Gaia and for all others. So we are pleased to answer questions today, as we know there are many, but we wish for you to understand that we are all in support of your Ascension program in this time, and that we come in support of these light codes and your frequency.
A few questions from the audience. First one is, how do I find my soul's purpose or service to others?
Yes, Jeremiah steps in to answer this question and is very pleased. So many of you speak about finding your soul's purpose, and we wish to define this because in many respects, your soul's purpose does not need to be found. It is already a part of you. And what you are speaking to is a form of manifestation. Because in essence, your inner truth lies within, and what has been blocked from you has not been your purpose or your mission. It has been your history. Allowing history to come through you and be healed is a part of how you access your inner truth. What we would wish to explain now is that your healing or your release of karmic energies is a very important aspect of you remembering this truth. There is programming that we have often referred to, and that programming was something that you've received in the third dimension. It is energetic, and it was taught to you in the form of language, in the form of religion, in the form of your educational structures. And it has taught you that you are something other than what you are. It has taught you that you are singular, and it has taught you that you are physical. This programming, in many respects, has caused you to form core beliefs. And those core beliefs are the reasons that you are not in alignment with your highest truth. And also the blocks or the resistant energies that are holding you from manifesting the aspects of that inner truth. So let us give you an example. As a child on this planet, many of you were taught that you could not express emotion. There is a system that you have been taught in which a child's will must be broken. by which if a child is expressing their inner angst or need very loudly, it is not to be tolerated, and it should be quieted. In this program in itself, many of you have been affected because the emotional body has been stifled. You see, the emotional body is a very valuable tool. Your emotions in any moment are your navigation system, or the operating system responding to its outer environment. So as a child, if you were feeling frustrated or perhaps hungry, and you expressed that need in a vibration, and that vibration was ignored, or you were taught that that vibration was improper, you then formed a core belief from that program. And that core belief may have been, I do not allow myself to be heard. Or that core belief is, the collective does not wish for me to be heard. We know that many light beings in this time have owned this program in resistance because they believe that the teacher is outside of them. They look to teachers that they see as ones who are above them dimensionally. We're here to tell you first and foremost that any teachings, any teachers that you have manifested are only a likeness of yourself. You see, you are always matching energies. You are always matching frequencies. You would not have come to this message if you were not equal to it. So as many of you place yourselves in a lower vibrational state than the beings that are speaking in this moment, you are not in alignment with your inner truth. Because in this moment, we are one in this room. We are telepathically exchanging energies, and we are equal. So we would say that a very good first step for those who are feeling they cannot access their inner purpose or their inner truth is to look at where you are using frequency in a way that is holding you in resistance to your ownership of light. In the question, there comes doubt. We always refer to the heart chakra in these instances because the heart chakra is the portal by which you accept the balance of energies of truth and of untruth. Many of you have already been presented with your inner truth. It is just that you are in doubt because you have been taught that doubt. You have been taught not to own the parts of yourself that are intergalactic and multidimensional. You have been taught not to speak your truth because it did not want to be heard. The moment that you've accepted that program, it's shown up for you in a variety of aspects of your reality, whether it be physical or non-physical. So beginning to observe the programming that you've received in this collective space that holds you in resistance to the higher dimensional being of light that you are becomes the impetus for you matching the frequency of it and beginning to discover and manifest the parts of it in your physical reality. Instead of looking at the teacher and looking at yourself as the student, begin to realize that you matched that teacher, and that is why that teacher came to you. That in that teacher there is a mirror likeness or an image or a truth within to discover. Every part of your existence holds within it a matched frequency. When you begin to examine these frequency matches in your daily experience and let go of the things that you no longer wish to match, this becomes the impetus for you connecting to that inner truth. We would venture to say that in this moment, if you are to take inventory of everything in your experience that you have brought into light. You have matched it in some way. And in that way, there is an answer. The things that you have matched that are no longer a part of who you are can easily be dropped when you begin to own the things that do match the higher vibrational space of who you have become and where you are headed. We want to say also that we mentioned the solar energies as a very large catalyst for your ascension. We wish for light beings to understand that in the most recent planetary alignment of solar engagement, there was a frequency that held you in connection with Mother Earth, and there was a purpose to that. It is because you are now being flooded with new information through her, and that information is universal. Many of you are integrating this information in this very moment. We ask for you to be patient and allow that information to integrate, because as you walk into what you would call your fall and summer months, there will be a catalyst for change with this integration. And with many of you, it becomes the realization of your genetic code and your collective assignment.
How can we open up better to our intuitive gifts?
I get Gabriel stepping in for this question, who is very pleased. We wish to speak about your intuitive gifts because there are many, but we would go beyond the word intuitive, because we know that when you are using this word, there's a definition, and that definition is outside of the self, that you wish to reach outside of the self and access information. We first want you to realize that any information that you are receiving, regardless of whether it be from higher vibrational beings or guides or teachers or masters, is all within. So when this channel is bringing information forward from a collective consciousness, that information is already existing within your structure, and you are receiving it because you are matching it. And when you begin to think that direction, that the answers are not outside, that they are within, you have built the platform by which you begin to access these gifts that you so speak of. We want to say that many of you have been using the structure very incohesively, and this has been brought to this discussion. There has been a skewing of your timeline by which the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies have been operating outside of the self very singularly. And the human consciousness has been using the spiritual body as the impetus for connections with other beings, guides, and telepathic exchanges. And we understand that that has been very important and has been useful for you. But we want you to begin to realize that you must use the entire structure in harmony in order to begin to fully accept this exchange of information and be able to not only receive it, but use it as practical advice within your physical reality. We bring you to the senses now, as you know that you have the senses of sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. They are all a part of your physical structure. But we want you to also realize that these senses are only a small part of what you have been given. At the very cellular level, the very cellular structure of your being, you hold the ability to teleconnect with other beings of light, with your Mother Gaia home, with what we would say is your multidimensional self. The higher self is a topic that we wish to also bring in, because the higher self is the seer of your timelines. So the sensory is very important because it relates to your physical nature. But when we talk about non-physical extrasensory or telepathic ability, we have to discuss the higher self and how to bring the higher self online. It is far easier than you think. And this is a very important part of the transition you are walking in this time. You have a soul, yes, and the soul is itself an energy body that is expressing itself multidimensionally on a variety of timelines. You know that you are energetic and you are living in past, present, and future in this very moment. Your higher self is the multidimensional space by which you observe all of the parts of the self. And the reason we say it is the catalyst for your intuitive gifts in this time is because it helps you to also bridge into the fifth dimension through your awareness, which has been a constant theme. Yes? Your awareness. We are always going to go back to this. There are lower vibrational beings that have access to your planetary space. We would call them reptilian in nature, and they reside within the core of your Mother Earth. They are using physical means to take your attention away from your structure. And that attention is, in essence, your frequency. The more that you begin to own your attention and your frequency, the more the structure can operate as it was intended. And you go beyond the senses of sight, sound, smell, touch. You begin to bring the higher dimensional aspects of yourself together with the soul. It is balancing the upper and lower, the heaven and earth, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark. There's a 0 point frequency, a 0 point field, where there is no right or wrong. This is the access portal or the access point for telepathic exchange. So if you are judging, yes, let us say you are connecting with your sensory, and let us say the sensory is feeling. And let us say you are feeling a spirit within the room, and your extrasensory begins to vibrate because you are matching the field of that being or that soul. But you begin to use the mind. And the mind tells you it couldn't be. This couldn't be me. And you're defaulting to the program that we spoke of in the earlier question, where you were taught that you are not equal to the vibration or the match of another. When you begin to use the mind outside of the extrasensory, and you begin to place your attention on what that mind is giving you or telling you, it creates resistance. And that resistance is what keeps you from placing your awareness or your attention in the new opportunity you've received. Your senses are essentially the part of the structure that gives you the opportunity to match a frequency. So when the extrasensory felt that that spirit was in the room because there was an enlightenment, a buzzing, a warmth, a tingling, that was not the gift per se. Certainly is a gift, we would call it. But it is the opportunity for you to recognize that you can now use your frequency to match what is present. And in matching that frequency, there must be an exchange. So our best advice to you, beyond the programming and identifying the programming and the core beliefs that are holding you in resistance to your highest light and highest truth, is that in any moment, you have the ability to check in with your attention, with your inner conversation, with your self-talk, with the mind, with the parts of your reality or the parts of your energy that are taking you outside of the experience that you wish to be in, that are telling you it is not true, that are telling you that it is not owned by you, and release it. And this is an everyday pattern that you must set. We talked about bringing the higher self online and bringing the higher self into your everyday experience. It becomes a choice. It becomes a choice through your attention. When we speak of the yin and the yang and the light and the dark and finding that center space, that center portal, that neutrality, where nothing is right or wrong, nothing is light or dark, everything is. That is a beautiful space to practice holding. Many of you can achieve that space during meditation. But it is good to realize that that space is available to you outside of a meditative reality. That within your physical environment, you can reset yourself in any moment, and that is through your breath. Use the breath as a catalyst. So when you feel that emotion, perhaps you're picking up on from another soul. Perhaps it is pain. Perhaps it is the intersection of a soul that has entered the room. Using the breath to find your 0 point becomes the space where the information lies. Because when there is no right or wrong, when there is no earth or sky, when there is no concrete, there is the field of everything, the field of potential. That is where it all lies. You are within that field of potential, and you have the ability to connect to that field of potential in any moment. So we would say practicing that connection through your breath in your everyday experience is a beautiful way to begin to connect with higher beings of light and with your cosmic family.
While we are living in this third dimensional world, how would it be best to deal with chemtrails? As a light worker, are we protected?
Yes, I bring in the council for this topic, and they are very pleased. So we wish to speak about the reason why this is occurring on your planet first, and then we can help you to understand how you are already transcending that and how you can continue to transcend it. First, we must focus on a definition of consciousness, because within your collective reality, we brought through originally a message that you've always been collective. Although you're reforming that and rediscovering that, it is still engaged, and you are connected to the universal time grid as well. So you've always been one with the human race and one with the human consciousness. Anything that shows up within your physical reality is a manifestation of that one consciousness. So the fact that there are these chemical experiences in your skies should not be blamed on one being or another. As a matter of fact, it should not be blamed at all. It should be realized that this is a creation of a one consciousness that is functioning in a lower dimensional reality. And that lower dimensional reality is a very unstable place. And this is what we wish to experience with you in this moment, is going back into the history records. You have been blocked from your history, in essence, and we are here as a council to help you remember that history. You have been created in the likeness of a 12-strand DNA, and you are a part of all beings, all races, and we're given the highest vibrational parts of these beings and races. But there was a very, what we would call cataclysmic event. In that event, there was a shifting of the polarities of the two suns. And within that experience, there was a timeline intersection. A timeline was skewed, in other words, and time portals were opened that allowed a skewing of a dimensional race. And that race was the reptilian race. Because the timeline portals were open, all races were affected by the activities of this one collective. And many of these reptilians were finding themselves in a very difficult position. Their creative energies, or the way in which they access their creative energies through their structure, were taken offline in a very similar way as your own. They use the mind in a very brilliant and beautiful way. You see, the reptilian species does not have to use the heart chakra to connect as a one. They do not have to have the cohesiveness of the structure that you have. They're able to manifest very beautifully through the mind as an organism, and that mind holds them in a one collective agreement. But this cataclysmic event took them outside of the realm of where their mind could create as a one. And many of these beings now inhabit your earth because they needed a new home that was to their liking, that they could modify through a dimensional consciousness and genetically hold the basis for their creation. In other words, to save their race. They have taken up what we would call ownership or home within your planetary being, and their genetics are quite prevalent here. Because of this, there has been an intersection of the time grid that we have closed off. meaning there's been a protection of the universal time grid by this dimensional race in order to hold it in resistance to itself, to not affect other parts of the universe, other races and other beings. They have found that because this blocking of the grid keeps them from universal information, that they must use physical means in order to genetically modify your planet to their liking. We don't say this to put you in a place of fear, because the human consciousness has all of the capabilities to rise above where these physical means are taking hold. But the reason that the sun is a catalyst for these physical means and their exposure is twofold. The Earth's sun is a very valuable light frequency for the human consciousness and for your ascension. In essence, the expansion of your race or the ascension of your race is held in storage within the banks of the sun's light. But in addition to that, the reptilian race is not affected positively by the rays of your Earth's sun. In fact, they are taken into a lower vibrational state of creation through these sun's rays and the interaction. Because of this, they have decided to create through your human consciousness a means to block these light-coded frequencies. And this is what you call your chemical trails. These chemical trails are essentially a means by which to physically block you from your own ascension. We understand that many of you are in the understanding that they are also affecting your Earth grid and affecting nature on your planet. We're in agreement with this, as we know that your dimensional reality has been lowered to a place where these physical means can affect nature and your genetic codes. But we are here to tell you that there's a constant theme to today's message, and that is your attention and your frequency. You see, as a collective one consciousness, you are matching the frequency of this chemical interaction. Your attention to it is valuable in that you've awakened to the fact that it is a portrayal of negativity that you do not wish to experience here. But when you begin to own this collective act through your energy, meaning you are again placing your awareness or your energetic currency within it, you are beginning to lower your frequency. And when you lower your frequency through these energetic acts, that is where it takes the biggest toll. Because we want you to realize that in the transient space that you are in this moment, you are beginning to transcend the physical on your journey to self-healing. You are becoming the energetic self-healers of the fifth dimension. And in that realization, you must know that in any moment you have the ability to use your frequency to transcend where these energies of physical nature can affect you. You may say, that is fine. I use my frequency to rise above these chemical means, but what about our planet? What about our Mother Earth? We want you to, again, remember and realize that the healing of your earth will not come from physical means. The healing of your earth will come from a one collective agreement or a one collective intent by which the energies are manifested to renew and rebirth the parts of your collective that have been affected in the physical. There was a message earlier we wish to refer to about your oceans being a part of your operating system. Your skies are a part of your operating system as well. You are earth, you are sky, you are water, you are fire. You are all of the elementals at the very basic genetic code that you own. When you begin to realize this, you can see why there has been a blocking of your operating system in this physical way. But when you realize that your frequency and the energy that you hold is the catalyst in your singular experience to rise above, you begin to understand that it is also the catalyst for the heart chakra to reconnect as a one through your intention, the rebirthing, the clearing of these activities. In essence, this reptilian consciousness that we have spoken of, they must operate within the physical here. But you are non-physical beings. You are beings of light. The moment you begin to own and realize that, there cannot be a manipulation of your operating system. So we are not concerned about these chemical trails that you speak of. And the reason that we say this is we are observing the frequencies here. We are in deep connection telepathically with many beings who access energies on your earth. And we are knowing that many of you who are transcending the fourth and the fifth energies are beginning to integrate parts of yourself that are non-physical. And that integration is in itself the catalyst for you rising above these frequencies. We know that you ask, when will they go away? We don't want to see them anymore. When will they stop? They will stop the minute that you have become the one frequency that you are striving for in this healing. The one frequency that is holding the fifth dimension. The one frequency that is self-healer. It's a tipping point that we want to express. Many of you would understand the analogy of the ice cubes in the glass, when the glass is almost to the top and full. And there is one more ice cube that is added and the water spills over the top. In each of you, there is a responsibility to own your own frequency. And that is the only responsibility you have to healing the planet. The moment that ice cube overflows the water is when enough human beings have owned their own frequency to allow the resolution to manifest. And the resolution can be quite clear, quite simple, quite easy when you remember that it is energetic.
Why should people who have never seen evidence of reptilian beings, aliens, or spirits believe that they exist, or how can they find evidence of their existence?
Yes, so the council is pleased to answer this question, as we know that many of you are still tuning into your physical nature, and this becomes the reliant part of your structure in order to place belief. We want to explain that physicality in itself is something that you have decided or you have chosen as a soul to experience. And in choosing that physicality, it was not because you knew that you were going to receive proof of the universe in shape and form. It was because you were going to be able to use the energies of the universe to manifest and experience in physical form. When you speak of these higher vibrational beings and wanting proof, there's a couple of avenues we wish to go with this discussion, because we know that disclosure is a very important topic on your planet, especially in this timeline. Disclosure in itself has been misrepresented because your human consciousness is wishing to acknowledge the physicality of beings as disclosure. And we would say that there, in fact, have been many events that have been planned in a purposeful way to show the human consciousness this physicality. Physical beings have landed here. There have been ships. There have been bodies that have left behind their evidence for you to understand and view. But you see, my friends, these beings, they are physical because they are holding one-dimensional reality. The universe is made up of many dimensional realities and beings that connect as a one. This reality is not outside of you on this earth. In this room, in this moment, all dimensions exist. As we mentioned, your DNA structure is in the likeness of a 12-strand DNA, which is a 12th dimensional reality. So you have 12 dimensions within you. You have lives that you have lived off-planet, non-physical and physical. And those lives are also existing right now in this very moment within this space. The question you are asking begs the answer of time-space reality. Because as human beings, you interpret time as linear and you interpret energy as physical. And this is a very blocked essence of what universal time and universal space is. Universal time and space knows no bounds. It does not need physical proof. It is a one connection. So if you are requesting proof, it is because you are tuned into a time-space reality that is limiting your perception. When you begin to let go of that resistance to time-space reality, you will begin to notice that you can access dimensional realities through your DNA and connect with these beings through your light body. Disclosure is happening within the structure, not outside of it. So when we speak of disclosure, we want you to realize that you are already telepathically exchanging, many of you, in your sleeping hours, in your meditations, and in your waking hours as well. The reason that you don't remember those transactions or telepathic exchanges or the information brought in is that you're choosing to place your awareness within a physicality or a time-space reality that is different than where those beings reside. So in other words, if you wish concrete proof or you wish to have these experiences, you must release the resistance. You must surrender to something bigger than yourself that is not held in this dimension. And understand that time is endless and infinite. The 0-point frequency we speak of, it knows no bounds of space or concrete energy. It's not physical. It flows. It is forming anew in every moment. We want to say that as we bring forward often, your intention is the catalyst for holding that connection to frequency that you match. Placing your intention on connecting with these beings, but ensuring that you hold your resistance low and open is where disclosure begins and where you will receive the proof and the evidence that you need. You are looking for it in all the wrong places. You are looking for it outside of yourself when it is actually within.
Do you recommend on doing a journey to do a Peruvian-style ayahuasca retreat for expansion of consciousness?
I bring in the ancients to answer this question. They are very pleased to connect today. So yes, we wish to speak about this ancient plant and this interaction with energy and how it has been revered over time and how it can be used in order to expand your consciousness. We first wish to say that there are many on your planet who are forming collectives around this plant who are not holding it within its highest regard. And we call it a plant, although we wish to say that it is actually an ascendant energy. It is a being in itself. So when you are using ayahuasca as a plant, what you are doing is you are taking a being within yourself and you are matching the frequency of that being. This is why many held ceremonial rites around the practice of using this ancient plant, because in the ceremonial rite, there was an opening of time portals and an opening of the chakras that allowed the gods to come in and equalize the frequencies between your energy body and this living, breathing being that we speak of. So do we recommend this? We would say that we recommend it for those who are drawn, but we would caution those who are drawn to ensure that they are connecting with the history, the ancient rituals around the plant. It is not just a plant, my friends. It is a part of you. It is you showing up in physical form to match itself in a higher vibrational state. In essence, what is happening in the process is that you are reconnecting to your one essence. And in that reconnection to the one essence, you have the ability to also bring the universal energies through you to change your frequency, meaning you are forever changed once you access this plant, when you access this ceremonial interaction. There are many high priests and priestesses who step forward now in support of this interaction with this plant, but know that expect that the timelines that you have around you now will begin to change. That through this interaction with this higher vibrational being, that when you match it, you are actually raising the frequency of your timelines. And when you return, you will have to deal with the aftermath of those timelines, not to place you in a state of fear, but to understand that when there is a timeline that is raised to a new frequency, there are parts of that timeline that must be healed. So this is why we suggest that you be prepared to intersect with the physical in healing work that must be done after you access this plant.
This is a question for the guides and for Micheila as well. What are your rules and ethics from the core group that protects and shields your female host body during mediumship or channeling?
Yes, we are pleased to answer this question, and I get the Pleiadian Collective coming in. We wish to say that we do not like to use the word protection. We want to explain that there's always a frequency match. So in any intersection with beings in which there are beings coming through a message of a human consciousness, or there is a two-way inter-exchange of communication, you are always matching the frequency of the beings. So as a human, you have a role. When we talk about protection, we are often discussing means outside of the self. Prayers, rituals, using crystals and words. Although these are helpful in raising frequency, if they are used the right way and chosen very carefully, they are not actually protection. Protection is embodied within. Protection is owned by your frequency. So when you place your intention on this connection, you must know that in that moment, you are accessing the frequency you wish to match. So they sent me through to answer. Sorry, it came through really quick. They sent me through to answer this question. It's about protection. I am guided to share that very early on, I was very concerned actually about protection. When I started to channel, I didn't really know I was channeling. I was actually interacting with beings and souls throughout my day, and they were entering kind of without my permission, to be honest. So I'd be sitting at my desk typing, working on something, and all of a sudden I'd have this soul come in, and they'd be looking around my office through my eyes as if I was someone else. And I didn't like that so much. So I said no. Nobody taught me this, but I said a very firm, I know, and that soul would leave. And I was always in control. That's not to say I haven't had negative or scary experiences with entities, because I have. And in those times, it is because I have matched their frequency, meaning I was in a really either difficult emotional place or a difficult physical place. I believe I was taught when I took a channeling class that I needed to bring in all this protection. I needed to light white candles and wear beads and, do all of these things. And I never did any of that before I took that class. And what I came to believe, and I still believe today and understand, is that really there's nothing physical outside of you that can protect you. But if you believe that those beads are going to protect you, because you believe it, they most certainly will. It's all about your own belief and your own intention and how you hold your frequency. So if I'm going to channel, I certainly wouldn't do it on a day where I was feeling angry or upset at somebody. I would clear myself first. I work with a lot of guides and I ask for clearings if I'm having a bad day. I'm going to tell you today I'm not at my best. I'm actually pretty sick today. Came anyway. Because I've learned over time, I used to think, I'm sick, I can't channel. Well, no. What I've learned is when I'm sick, I clear. I meditate. I raise my vibration. I did a lot of that before I came. And I trust and I know, because the guides that I connect with are higher vibrational, that they're going to come in and do the work. You can tell. I think I get a lot of people ask me, how do I know that this information is coming from a truthful place or high vibrational place? Well, you can tell by the information, and your body knows truth. So if you're hearing something from a channel and it doesn't feel good to you, I don't know if anyone's watched channeled material and all of a sudden you're like, your stomach feels funny or something doesn't feel right, turn it off. Because I'm not saying, there's channels out there that are connecting with all kinds of stuff, and your body knows, and just because, I'm a channel doesn't mean everyone on the planet is meant to connect with my information. I don't believe that I'm for everybody or the information that I channel is for everybody. But I will say, what I know is that when you're connecting with higher vibrational guides and beings, there's never going to be anything scary. They're not going to tell you have to do something. You're going to feel inspired, uplifted. I've talked to people who say, I had a channeling and Archangel Michael came in and he said, I have to do something in 10 days or else. That doesn't resonate with me. That's not how I know Archangel Michael. The Archangel Michael I know would never say you have to do anything. As a matter of fact, he would probably just support you in your own decision. Higher vibrational guides don't want to come in and make it easy for you and make the decision for you. They don't often want to tell you how to do it. They want to tell you why you're here, the agreements that you made. They're going to give you a lot of inspiration, but they are in support of you making your own decision. And so that's my answer. All right. Okay. Are we channeling more? We're done. Okay, good. Well, that worked out. So any other questions about any of the information that came through? Sometimes I get feedback after I channel. People say, wow, I didn't really understand any of that, but it was great. Just know that, the information that came through was a frequency. So it wasn't just about the words. You received a frequency, which was an upgrade. So the information that came through it's within you, and you might integrate some of that over the course of the next couple weeks and come to realizations about things about your world or yourself that are new. So thank you all for coming.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Waking Empowered TV with our special 2-hour presentation of Micheila Sheldan doing an event for our local Flower of Life Center. Join me next week as we speak with another incredible individual who's standing on the leading edge and changing the world.